trying to take accountability and responsibility for how you've behaved, what you've done and how you felt. Not shying away from it, not denying it, or not trying to devalue it, but instead accepting it, acknowledging it, and then identifying this is what has become, this is how I feel, this is what I've done, and this is where my brain is going. What can I do to change that? I'll tell you one thing, I've made a mistake layering up today. I'm in 3 layers, I'm absolutely sweltering. But I don't take the layer off yet, or at least one of the layers off yet, because first of all, no pump has been achieved, very important there. And secondly, I've only just put the mic on. I don't want to take the jumper off to put the mic on again. It's all a hassle. Haven't started in the car today because I forgot, but we're in the gym now. It's midnight on the dot, and we're training chest and triceps. Don't normally train chest and triceps in this gym. I actually train at my other gym, which is elsewhere. So we're kind of improvising a bit today, but I figured, you know what, spicier content, try something different, go from there. One thing I do want to note is I really appreciate how amazing everyone's been in the comment section of these videos. But what I'd really appreciate from everybody is to go through the comment section and just speak to someone who's expressing struggle, or speak to somebody who's just expressing something that might indicate that they could use a friend. The whole point of TFNL, or one of the points of TFNL, is to create that community to help each other thrive and build each other up. And if you are dealing with things, I really do encourage you to be able to verbalize that in the comment section. I really hope that other people reading through the comments will feel brave enough and confident enough just to drop a message or drop a reply to let whoever might be talking in the comment section know that somebody's there for them. I actually don't know about this machine situation, never used it before. Currently we're at 4 plates either side. I don't know if this is going to be working set, could be warm up. Let's find out. I think that's warm up. We'll go 4.5. We'll be a bit conservative because my boob feels a bit spicy today. Might go well, might go badly. Either way, we're gonna try and see what happens. Also, song of the day, we'll see for this set. Pain Remains Part 1, Dancing Like Flames Along the Shore. We do love to see it. So that sounds really silly, but the biggest limiting factor there is actually my hands. The handles are like really weirdly set up, so my hands just feel really uncomfortable. I feel like I've got a almost like suicide grip palmet. That's not how I like pressing. Normally I'm actually meant to be doing incline Smith machine, but the Smith machine here does not feel juicy. I think you've got to learn to be a bit more flexible with your training sometimes. I don't normally do this session here, and obviously for the sake of content, I figured doing it once isn't going to hurt anybody. Plus it's quite nice actually starting off with a converging chest press machine. Again, obviously the primary function of the old pecs being your chest is to bring the humerus across the body. When you're obviously pressing without converging, you can only bring it across so far. When there's converging involved, humerus comes further across the body, thus better aligning with the primary function of the muscles I'm looking at to target, being the boobs. Obviously part of this kind of like video series, obviously I've now had 2 DBT sessions, and realistically we're not getting into anything too crazy because obviously I've only had 2 sessions. But it's definitely interesting to learn about different behaviors, different responses to situations, and how you can better align your actions with the situation you're presented with. I think one of the things I try and process, which hasn't really been mentioned DBT yet, is where my brain goes when it comes to, I think, turmoil. So when obviously I'm going through periods of turmoil, the first thing, as I mentioned in the last video, is jump back to previous coping mechanisms. The 2 big coping mechanisms I would often fall back to would be substance abuse, like I said about the opioids, and benzos specifically, and also self-harm. I think that's actually kind of, in all honesty with you, why I'm here today. Like I said, I wasn't meant to do this session here, but because I can identify, yesterday was a bit of an interesting one. I felt like my brain went a bit vroom to another realm, which is obviously not the best thing. I kind of identified when I woke up, had a bit of a rough night, had some less from ideal nightmares, we'll say, because that does happen to be a bit of a ting. I've spoken before, I think, previously about my history with like night terrors, sleep paralysis, things like that. I mean, I've had night terrors since I was 5 years old. I felt today my brain was very much quick to spiral, and I think when it does spiral, I jump back to coping mechanisms. And that's kind of partly why I'm here, because I don't want to resort to those coping mechanisms. So again, I do this all the time, I'm sorry, but trigger warning, I'm useless, just unsubscribe and block me. In this instance, those coping mechanisms very much jump back to self-harm, because that's the one you have the easiest access to be honest, and that's the one that is a bit more immediate, whereas the other might require a bit more planning. I think I've noticed today, for whatever reason that might be, probably stemming, last night was a bit spicy to be fair, then obviously the nightmares kind of triggered a lot of today. I think it's kind of identified that rather than sitting at home and dwelling and potentially relapsing on those coping mechanisms and those bad behaviors, go to the gym, do something productive in the hope that maybe this will distract me enough to be able to at least deter them until tomorrow, and then that's a tomorrow problem. If it doesn't, then I try my best, and I do apologize. I like I said, I am trying to get away from them, put myself in a safer space, being the gym, and not feed those desires, those temptations, because like I said before, my brain tells me it's right, but just because your brain tells you something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Obviously we stack every machine here, because why wouldn't you? What's the song today? That's what I'm gonna tell you about. What's the song? Desolation by Imminence. I think this is a band I actually saw on TikTok. Sometimes TikTok can bring some real bangers to you. Honestly, my TikTok music feed is actually pretty solid. Cybex, fantastic brand. Again, we've gone from a converging press previously to a non-converging press now, but to be honest, I just quite like this kind of pressing movement. I don't love dumbbells that much, because especially when the weights start getting quite heavy, I find stability being a really limiting factor, and that's obviously not what I want when I'm trying to effectively train my chest. But we're gonna give this a crack. We're gonna hopefully get more than 0 reps, and we're gonna see what happens. That's quite hard actually, I'm not gonna lie. My hand is not feeling fun. After that previous machine, my hand is struggling there. You saw me changing my grip halfway through. I sound like a bit of a willy, but my hand is throbbing. I'll tell you one thing that I've seen quite a lot of recently, especially online. A lot of people are glorifying mental health. And I don't want to come across as rude or insensitive, but mental health isn't something to glorify. Mental health is not something you want to encourage people to experience. Mental health is not something you want to encourage yourself experiencing. At the end of the day, many of us will face a mental health struggle of sorts, but I'm sure, especially during said struggle, many of us wish that we never had. And it's fantastic that more people are talking about mental health and more people are bringing awareness to it and trying to help others. But glorifying mental health does not help the problem. Glorifying mental health does not change the realities of how debilitating and harmful mental health can be, not only for the person experiencing mental health problems, but also for those around them. I mean, I've exposed some of the closest people in my life to some things people should never be exposed to. They've seen some horrendously traumatic things in which I've done and they've had to witness. And I've also seen some really pretty awful things myself, to be honest, not only from myself and what I've done, but also some people around me too. To glorify said actions and to glorify said experiences does not change the reality of what mental health can do to people. It doesn't change the reality of people, many people, lose their life to mental health. Many people lose their relationships, their friends, and many aspects of who they are to mental health. And I don't understand how glorifying that is going to change that. So what you need to do is bring awareness to it, reduce the stigma, and give people a pathway to help. That's the big thing, is giving people a pathway to help. Help is hard to find for a lot of people, especially depending on the country you're in, depending on the healthcare, whatever it may be. A pathway to help is something that so many people would benefit from, not only for those experiencing the problems, but also those who might witness the problems their loved ones are experiencing. There's a dude right there. This is anxiety for me, filming when there's someone literally right next to me. Oh, stress. When someone comes to the gym at this time of night, like it's nearly 1 a.m, I'm thinking like, are you okay? Like, is something going on? I always want to ask, like, is everything okay? Obviously, I know people work night shifts and stuff, but when I come here late, it's probably because I'm not having a great time. So maybe other people aren't having a great time. Then I get worried about them. And then stress, I'm like, what can I do to help? Do they need a friend? I'll be a friend. I like being friends. Double rope push downs. Obviously, long rope means I can flare the elbows a bit more. Better lines up the old long head of the tricep with its origin in the old scapula, which is kind of what we're trying to do today. Song of choice, Heart Attack by Scarlord. Why not? timed the song incorrectly, so I didn't even get to the good bit. You can do single rope pushdowns, honestly. It's not that deep. The only reason I use a double rope is because, again, like I said, it allows me to get my elbows a bit further back. It allows me a bit more room to flare. Like I said, it kind of better aligns the long head of the tricep with its origin point in the scapula. You don't need to, but it may just allow you to better bias slightly the long head of the tricep, which is kind of what you're looking to target when you are doing pushdown variations like such. So it kind of does make sense. But if you don't have a long rope, you can just get 2 normal ropes, put them together, boom, 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 boom. Or you could just do single arm, or you could just do regular rope. It's just not that deep at the end of the day. It's just about working what you've got, working within your means, and just finding how you can adjust movements to better align with your body, your leverages, and your biomechanics. We're being suboptimal today because essentially, normally I do like a pec deck fly to finish off chest, where I've done 2 presses and a fly variation. But in all honesty, I don't actually like the pec deck fly here, much prefer the other one. And I'm kind of a bit limited because I want to do a fly variation. I'm not a fan of the old dumbbell fly for obvious reasons. I've mentioned this before. It very much literally mimics a dumbbell press. So why would you not just dumbbell press? So we're going to do a cable fly. The issue is when you go relatively heavy, stability and balancing essentially becomes the hardest thing, where I'm kind of falling back. I don't know how heavy to go. So we're going to do this. We're going to find out what happens. And if my pec blows up, then I've probably made a great video for a funny meme compilation. Song, let me just jump in quick, song. Forgotten, the plot in you. I think one of the things I'm trying to, or starting to identify, I should say, especially in the realm of like mental health recovery, in a lot of cases, we very much are products of our environment. And what I mean by that is if you surround yourself with people that might be holding you down, people that might be fueling negativity, enabling bad behaviors, and fueling problematic thought processes, that's only going to make recovery harder for you. If you surround yourself with people who are encouraging you to do better, help you do better, preventing you from going down these bad paths, who are there for you to support you and to help you along your journey, and who are kind of fueling positivity and kind of fueling progression and success, I think it's only going to help set you up for success when you are healing from whatever you might be healing from, be that trauma, be that depression, anxiety, whatever it may be. If you put yourself in a safe environment, that's a place where you can thrive, not just survive, then you really are helping maximize your chances of getting better. There are kind of like 2 mindsets you can kind of take, I feel, in a lot of cases when it comes to this, is that accept that things will never get better and just say, you know, this is how it's going to be and stop trying, which although is a mindset I've certainly been tempted to adopt in the past, especially when I've been in a very low slump. It's not going to help anything. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to get me out of said slump. Or you could adopt another mindset of, I can't guarantee things will get better, but I'm going to do everything in my power to try my best, to give me the best chance and best opportunity for things to get better. One accepts defeat, the other accepts that there might be a chance for recovery. Again, you can never guarantee these things. I can't ever say with certain anybody is ever going to get better, although I would like to hope they would, and I really do believe that there is a capacity to get better there. You can't guarantee people will, and that goes for myself as well. I can't guarantee I will get better, but I will certainly try everything in my power to improve, to allow myself to best manage and control the symptoms of both BPD and DID, so they don't hinder my relationships anymore with friends, with whoever that may be, and so they don't impact those around me anymore. Instead of sitting down, we're lying down now, because essentially I'm doing incline dumbbell skull crushers. And, you know, I'm telling you a song to start. What we listening to? I don't even need to tell you, I know what we're listening to. I Want to Master Life and Death by Drop Dead Gorgeous. Incredible band. From my glory days. I think I started listening to them about 13 years ago. Bloody wild. So actually, the thing you're going to note here is that when I'm doing the old skull crushers, you'll see I slide myself up quite high on the bench. That's because if I'm doing it here, I will bang my hand into the bench. That's not what we want, especially considering this movement is very much about that stretch portion, that lengthened position. I'm going to slide up, allow me to go through a better range of motion, better stretch on the triceps, therefore potentially more effective movement for the triceps. So tickle that next time. See, this should be a really good thing to lean on. There's no weight on it. Well, you know what, we're gonna do it anyway. That's largely the session. My chest tricep session isn't that crazy. I do 2 presses, then a push-down variation of sorts, then a fly variation, and then usually a skull crusher or maybe even the JM press. That's kind of all I need, really. I think to close this video, we'll say, this is really annoying me, I'm bouncing all over the place. Look, to close this video, when it comes to mental health and recovery and the mental health journey in general, I really think it's about trying to take accountability and responsibility for how you've behaved, what you've done and how you felt. Not shying away from it, not denying it, or not trying to devalue it, but instead accepting it, acknowledging it, and then identifying this is what has become, this is how I feel, this is what I've done, and this is where my brain is going. What can I do to change that? Why do I feel that way? Has something happened to me previously, childhood trauma perhaps, that has led me to feel a certain way, to adopt a certain belief, or maybe to react a certain way when faced with conflict or adversity? If you push people away, why might that be? Has something happened to you previously that might have encouraged you to push away when you feel threatened, to push away when you feel vulnerable? What has happened in the past that might translate to how you're behaving now? Because there is often, not always, but there is often a reason. And once you can then identify that, you say, okay, well, I see the cycle now. This is how it started and this is what happens, and it goes here and it goes round and round and round. What can I do to break that cycle? There's a theory called social learning theory that suggests that whatever behavior has been learnt can be unlearned. So if I react a certain way in conflict, that is maybe a learnt behavior due to what I may have observed as a child. Therefore, I can unlearn that behavior. Easier said than done, but it is possible. I think that's one of the key things when looking at like recovering and getting better, is identifying what you do and then identifying why you're doing it, and then identify how you can change. And that doesn't just have to be reactions to conflict, that can also be mood as well. When something happens around this time, why does your mood decline? Why does your anxiety spike? Have you almost been conditioned to expect bad news or anxiety around a certain time, around a certain event? What has happened that has maybe made you feel this way? Or what is it about this event or this time, whatever it may be, that makes you feel this way? Is it maybe the anticipation of something happening, the anticipation of seeing a person, the anticipation of every winter I've fallen into depression? Why is this one going to be any different? Something like that. What is it you can identify that might explain what is occurring? And again, that's a question I think many of us can ask ourselves. Many of us can ponder what that might be, and sometimes it is really hard to figure that out. To be honest, a lot of these behaviors, I mean, I went to therapy when I was 6 years old initially. I'm 29 now. I only really now started to put pieces of the puzzle together, and like, now it makes sense. That's why I do this when I'm faced with this. It's why I behave that way. It's why my brain does this. This might be why BPD and DID have become a thing. This all makes sense now. And you can never definitively say this is the reason why, but you can turn around and say, actually, it does make a bit of sense. So this is the best information I've got to run with. I'm going to run with it, see what happens. And if I'm wrong, and that's not the reason, at least I've shortlisted it to help me better find the real reason. Hopefully you managed to take something away from this video. Hopefully you managed to learn something. Hopefully you managed to apply something. And hopefully you managed to even tolerate something. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating another mental health update where the music has now stopped. And thank you for tolerating the video.